Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. You know, when I saw the previews of Sloane, confronting Nicole, I was like, why? Right? And, she came over there today after EJ left and was trying to be very remorseful, very apologetic. And I'm just like, so wait, you came over here to sit there and try to clear your conscience. Are you serious? But then, Nicole is laying into her, and she's like, "Oh, you think that you can convince me to drop the charges since you don't want to, since you don't want to try to skip town or whatever?" Because let's be honest, she could have already just left. It's not like EJ didn't give her the money, but maybe she doesn't feel like being on the run, so she tries to explain all the different reasons why she did it, and the miscarriage and everything like that, and Nicole just socks her right in the face. Right? They go back and forth. And at some point, she's like, you know what, listen, you need to sit there and stop condemning me for something that you wound up doing to Sammy. She's like, I know your history. Now, let's be very clear. She is 100% correct. Like, yeah, she has a right to sit there and feel how she feels with Sloane for what she did. And how even Nicole, who didn't like her, her heart broke when Sloane had her miscarriage because she understood exactly what that pain was like. But with that being said, I didn't feel bad when the baby switch happened after because I was like, you did the exact same thing to Sammy. So I have zero sympathy for you. But they go back and forth, and at some point, Sloane gets ready to leave, runs into Eric. I'm just like, boo, at this point, you deserve to get caught. You really do. You really deserve to get caught. Um, I mean, yeah, she deserves to go to jail, if we're going to be honest, but I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. I don't know what planet did you honestly think you were going to convince this woman to drop the charges. That was just stupid. I know they had to sit there and try to write her, right off the show, but I'm like, you could have just had her go and then maybe come back, maybe recast. Now, most likely, this chick is just going to want to go into jail. Um, So while Everett or Bobby, let's be honest, I think that was Bobby's dream of Jada and Stephanie. Stephanie is preparing to do the intervention. She's a little nervous and a little overwhelmed by the whole thing, and Marlena just tries to coach her through it. But she's like, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to be there during it because it's better for you two to be there for X and Y reasons." I was just like, wait, let me get this straight. You know that it could be potentially dangerous, that you suggested this idea, but you're not going to be there. I mean, granted, she does want to come in and she does sit there and say, well, I'm going to be nearby, but I'm like, you should be there from the jump. You really should. Anyway, Stephanie, well, first, Jada. First, Jada shows up, and then Stephanie shows up afterwards. And at this point, Everett's like, okay, so this is not a coincidence. And they both kind of urge him to get help. He starts getting super defensive. He starts yelling, right? And then he just turns to Bobby. And he's like, listen, Bobby doesn't need to sit there and know this stuff. I'm here to protect Bobby. So he's not even going to sit and even really know about this incident or anything like that. Obviously see that Everett is the good version and Bobby is the protector. You have to sit there and be tough to sit there and deal with whatever trauma that Everett couldn't face. So at some point, he practically tells them both to get out. And they're like, no, we can't do that. we're not leaving. And I'm just like, this can turn dangerous very, very fast. Marlena eventually gets in there. After running into EJ in that awkward conversation. Because at one point she's like, oh, you look just like, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she calls him Jude. Now, by the way, EJ does want to change that name. He does want to change the name. And to be honest, it's not like it's a bad name. I mean, hell, they didn't sit there and bother to change Wiley on General Hospital. I mean, you changed the name from Ben to Rocco. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that awkward conversation. Um, and then, eventually she gets there and she tries to calm the situation down and kind of just really get to the root of what's going on. And, I guess try to, convince Bobby at this point that you need help. Okay, you need help. Um, let's see, while that's going on. Oh, okay. Almost forgot. So Melinda is talking to Rafe, and Rafe is like, so you telling me that you had no idea what was going on? Like you helped with this adoption and everything like that, but you don't know what was going on. So Melinda, tries to explain herself the best way she can, and she's like, listen, do you think that I'm a crazy person? You know me for a very long time. And she gets super defensive, so Rafe kind of shuts it down, and he leaves. Meanwhile, um, Eric approaches Leo, and is like, "Did you help Sloan?" I don't know I don't know how Leo is in the position to help anyone, but he wants answers, right? And Leo's like, "No, I didn't do anything. I didn't sit there and help or anything like that." But he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, and there's a point where he's about to get physical, but Rafe shows up to sit there and stop the whole thing. So Leo leaves. He goes to Melinda, and he's all running scared. And Melinda pretty much is like, "Listen, just chill out, just calm down. Everything's gonna be fine. I handled Rafe. We're good." Now, after Eric apologizes to Rafe for what he did, they're talking, and Rafe brung up the whole adoption thing or whatever. It's like, yeah, I tried to question Melinda, and she was like, she didn't know anything. Apparently Sloan kind of kept her in the dark when it came toward the adoption. But Eric was like, no, what are you talking about? Melinda practically handed us that child. And Rafe was like, oh, she didn't tell me that. So he makes a beeline right back to Melinda. It was like, yeah. And bottom line is, he was like, you lied to me, and I'm arresting you. The sad thing is that she actually sat there and tried to pat herself in the back, like, oh, I'm so good. I totally escaped, like I totally convinced him. I really got one over on him. And that was a very, very, very short victory. In all reality, Melinda should have just skipped town at that point because her days, her days was coming to an end at that point. Because if that didn't happen, eventually EJ was probably going to say something, was probably going to sit there and blackmail her. The best thing that she could have did for herself was take the little money that she had and start somewhere else. But her dumbass decided to sit there and stay in Salem and become DA, knowing that she has so much to lose. And she was also talking to Sloan. She was like, hey, listen, stop calling me. Like, we shouldn't really be having any sort of contact. Of course not, because eventually the cops could sit there and try to trace it. Like, oh, where's all these mysterious phone calls? And Sloan is gone. She's in the wind. She's your friend. You helped with the adoption, and now you have all these weird calls. Like, what's going on? So, like, she was screwed. She was screwed from jump. And the sad thing is that Melinda is smarter than that. So it's like they had to write her dumb just to move the storyline along. Nicole was, and but just on a little tidbit, Nicole was actually okay with the name. She was like, the name is fine. But if you're really adamant about it, which she is, She was like, you could change the name. In all reality, none of this stuff is really going to matter because when Nicole finds out, most likely EJ is going to be going to jail. Yeah, he's most likely going to be going to jail. He's going to be going to jail. Linda's going to be going to jail. I don't understand how Leo may not be going to jail. Um, Somebody in the chat was telling me a couple of days ago that Leo is going to be having a new love interest, but I was like, is that new love interest going to be in jail? Because I don't really understand how he's not going to be escaping any charges. But, it is Days of Our Lives, and they got things like possession and, everything else. So people come back from the dead. So I guess if that's possible, I guess I can see some sort of scenario where Leo doesn't go to jail, which is, I don't know how I feel about it, but whatever. Anyway, I feel like that's pretty much about it, just the general gist of it. I also didn't say it was a good episode for Friday. I knew Friday they was going to sit there and come through. Sometimes I wish with all these soap operas that they would sit there and treat these episodes like they're Friday. But I don't know. This was a good episode, so I guess I'll just sit there and take the win on that one. Anyway, if I missed anything, write in the comment section below or come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the shows, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, Born the Beautiful, Young and the Restless. With that being said, I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next video.